Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on TradeSmart, TPO, and Trade Intelligence. Our presenter today is Janet Dornkopp.
Thanks, Karen. So today we're going to go discuss our TradeSmart application, and we're going to talk about trade promotion optimization and trade promotion intelligence. We're going to start with the company background. We're going to go ahead and define what TradeSmart and trade promotion intelligence is and describe how it's different than trade promotion optimization and trade promotion management. We'll cover that very briefly because we want to get right into the actual sample reports and show you the BlueSky Analytics and our PromoPro event alignment. We're also going to talk about some of the data issues that exist and what makes it so difficult to understand your trade data and give you a demonstration as well. So a little bit of background. We started the company back in 1996, specializing in data warehousing and business intelligence. And that business intelligence was done for every segment of companies, and we used to do it across all industries as well. So we created business intelligence solutions for finance teams and supply chain teams and marketing teams. We also did this across all industries. So companies like Chase Manhattan Bank and Timken Industries and Chrysler were all companies we built data warehouses for. Back in the late 90s, we started focusing specifically on the consumer goods space, and that's because of the added issue we discovered with consumer goods manufacturers that they have, and that's associated with integration and alignment of the different data sources coming in from various retailers, third-party syndicated providers, as well as internal data sources. And we're going to talk about that in a few slides as well, as far as what some of those issues are in terms of integrating various data sources. Today, we're well recognized as the go-to company related to integration of point-of-sale data with internal data sources. Years ago, Gartner called us best at integrating POS with internal data. We've been award winners from Consumer Goods Technology and CIO Magazine. In fact, CIO Review just named us one of the top SAP providers in 2015, and that's because SAP uses our integration and cleansing processes to populate their demand application. IBM does the same. Infosys uses our solution to populate their Trade Edge application. It's a very recognized solution by major technology and database companies to help with this particular issue. So what is TradeSmart? TradeSmart is a trade promotion intelligence application. It leverages our smart solution architecture. It automates the integration and harmonization of the various sources required for analyzing trade data. And when I say it leverages our smart solution architecture, I'm talking about the infrastructure that we designed to help companies understand not only their trade, performance of their trade applications, but other applications as well. The smart solution architecture has a process and an infrastructure and a data model design that allows you to grow your intelligence. So you may be using it for trade, you may be using it for category management, but it's really the backbone of all of our solutions. TradeSmart gives you the ability to accurately analyze the outcomes of trade promotions and compare your plan with what actually occurred at the retailer. Basically, we're also giving you the ability to not only analyze that information, but with the PromoPro application, which resides in front of TradeSmart, we're allowing you to group events and understand the performance of multiple events at a single retailer as well, and you're going to see that in the demonstration. It allows us to streamline that integration of the different data sources, which include plan, shipments, and consumptions as it relates to trade promotions. It also includes the integration of syndicated data that you're probably buying. Most of our customers are also purchasing competitive information, so customers are able to analyze not only their promotions, but how their promotions are doing versus their competition as well. You can also analyze whether or not your promotions were properly executed and the amount of retail compliance. It is a rules-based system, and by that, what we are talking about is within the data model itself, we apply the business rules that would be relevant across your trade teams. So there may be certain measures, or there may be certain baselines, or there may be certain things that your trade management team defines differently than another trade management team. Every company we go into has their own set of terminology. Most of it, 90% of it is the same from company to company, but everybody does have their own set of terms, and they also have their own set of rules. So you may deem that certain amount of information is what you expect to come in from a particular retailer, and if it doesn't meet a certain threshold, you want to be notified of that. That would be an example of a rule that we would put into the system. There are other rules that we have already built into the system that handle things like EPC issues and so forth. But it is a rules-based system, and we all agree upon those rules during that implementation so that we're maintaining consistency of reporting. And it does become a common repository for all historical information as well. So as you are starting to understand the promotion effectiveness for particular tactics or events that are occurring at a specific retailer, we're accumulating that information into a repository where you can then take a look at what happened the year before. You can even look at the images associated with those particular displays or advertisements, for example. So maybe you had a promotion that was particularly effective last year, and for some reason this year it didn't have the same result. Well, was that a result of something that occurred at the stores? Was that a result of spacing? Was that a result of the actual image of the advertisement? It can be a variety of things, but we do allow you to pull the images into the solution as well. And we can also feed the results back into other systems. So if you do have a planning application, and we find that people generally either have, they'll have Demantra or Siebel or Prescient or SAP's TPM application, and a lot of times they even have their homegrown application. A lot of times it's simply an Excel. But we can feed data back to a system where it can then be used to update that plan data. So some examples of trade promotion intelligence. And we're coining the term TPI because we see a lot of companies, and most companies have trade promotion management applications. If not, they're using some sort of their homegrown application in some way to manage their trades and to allocate funds and so forth. But trade promotion intelligence basically helps us understand how our promotions are performing. And a lot of companies are talking about TPO right now, which is trade promotion optimization. Trade promotion intelligence is going to get you about 80% of where you need to be with trade promotion optimization. But it really needs to be implemented before a TPO solution. And the reason that we say that is you can't optimize your trade until you first understand what's going on in the trade. We view it more of a what-if analysis type of reporting. So here's the information about your promotions, here's what performed, here's what didn't perform. Now what if we adjust pricing, or what if we roll this out at other retailers? There's all sorts of what-if analysis that is possible in a trade promotion optimization application. But if you don't have the intelligence behind it first, you don't actually understand what you're analyzing. So we believe we've, with our solution, we're fitting a niche that doesn't really exist in the market today. There's trade promotion management and trade promotion optimization. We're terming trade promotion intelligence because we believe that's a necessary second step before getting to trade promotion optimization. With trade promotion intelligence, again, a lot of times it's going to get you 80% of what you're looking for anyways, and for most customers, it's a much more cost-effective way to analyze their promotions and get them what they need. This is an example of an ROI report. For example, a lot of companies today are using this for joint business planning. And the reason for that is because you want promotions to be profitable for both yourself as well as for the retailer. So there's only one way to actually analyze that. You need to be leveraging the POS data as well as the shipment data. And in order to really understand ROI for yourselves, for the manufacturers yourselves, you also have to be integrating your cost of goods sold. And then you want to compare that cost of goods sold with what actually was forecast. So we can do that through the integration of those different data sources that we talked about. But this example of a report, if I zoom in here, it shows you that you want these KPIs over here to be up green arrows. Those are the promotions you want to continue with. The ones that are red or down means that it was positive for you but negative for the retailer. And in true joint business planning, you're doing this so that you're having these sessions with your retailers because you want to select promotions that are profitable for both companies. So you don't want one that's just profitable for you and not profitable for them, or profitable for them and not profitable for you. So we want to make sure that it's a win-win for both companies in any joint business planning. So this ROI report gives that information. This is a post-event report that shows and allows the end users to determine, to select the market, the promoted product group, and the merchant type the type of advertising that's going on. And again, we can give it KPIs that would show whether or not it's positive for the retailer or the manufacturer. Cannibalization reports, obviously those are very necessary. This is an example where we're looking at biscuits versus rolls versus buns. And the lines up top here are showing pricing. This orange line represents the price of biscuits, just like the orange bar here is representing the volume of biscuits. And obviously, when the price comes down, the volume goes up. You're also able to see if the price comes down, what happens to our sales of rolls and buns. Are we cannibalizing our own sales? We also, through our interface, create dashboards where executives can have a quick initial glance at the promotion effectiveness. They can look at margins. They can look at the promoted performance versus share. We can look at base and incremental to price, feature type assessment, ROI analysis, ship to scan. We can actually look at a variety of other widgets as well. These are just very common KPIs that we see most of our customers want to have on their home page. But you can create other KPIs through the dashboard and have those available so that the end users can pick and choose the KPIs that they want to have on their dashboard. So how do we get there? Well, initially, you have to understand the data dilemma that exists at all the CPG manufacturers. And this is a slide that we've been using for years because analysts really like this slide. In fact, they usually ask for it because what typically happens is management doesn't understand the complexity associated with pulling together data from all these different sources. And then when even they submit reports to management, the questions inevitably come back to the analyst, who's then stuck going back to the source data to justify and explain where those numbers came from. It's a very tedious, cumbersome process. Gartner estimates that about 85% of analysts are actually spending their time just gathering, cleaning, integrating, and justifying that data. That's where you're preventing your analysts from truly becoming data scientists. If this process were streamlined, your analysts would have the time and ability to really glean insights from their data. So we're not using an analyst's time efficiently when we're having them go out and manually cobble together data in spreadsheets before actually having the ability to glean insights and start understanding the information and providing new ideas to management. So what makes it so difficult? Well, it's not just that they're going to all of these different sources, but all these different sources are coming from multiple different retailers and third-party data providers. They have varying data elements. You're going to get thousands of data elements out of Retail Link, but out of a company like, I don't know, Food Lion or Dollar General, for example, you're getting a much more limited set of data. You might also be getting Kroger data from dunnhumby or from Market 6. You could be buying syndicated data from Nielsen and IRI as well as getting EDI data. All of these different sources have varying data elements. In addition to that, there's often missing data. So if a retailer sends you EDI files and we discover that there were 4 hours missing out of last Sunday, that data needs to be recast. And recast data is a complicated thing to deal with. In addition to that, all of these retailers pad their UPCs in various ways. So you may have some that are padding the UPC digits up front or at the tail end. They might be just parsing out that information. They all come in different formats, and the UPC issues are very common. In addition, you've got different granularities and different hierarchies for every retailer, and you have different calendars. A Walmart calendar is completely different than most CPG manufacturers' calendars. So how do you align their calendars with your calendars and with the other retail calendars and with the syndicated data provider calendars who have different weekend dates? So there's all sorts of inconsistencies and issues associated with the calendars. In addition, they're all sending data in different formats. Most companies are getting EDI data from the different retailers. They might be getting it in AS2. They might be getting it from the retailer portal like Retail Link or Partners Online. But it's always in different formats. Those formats all need to somehow turn into a single format. They all need to populate Oracle, for example, or populate DB2. If you're taking that POS data and you're integrating it internally behind your firewall, what database are you trying to convert all of those different formats into? It has to happen, though. And with an analyst, they typically are doing that all manually in spreadsheets. The other thing is a lot of companies are forced to buy their data. And how much does that data cost? In addition, they're getting data in different frequencies. Most of our customers get syndicated data on a weekly or a monthly basis. You might also get point-of-sale data on a daily basis. You might pull data from Walmart's Retail Link twice a day, in fact. So there's different frequencies. And with that varying frequency comes a lot of complications in aligning that data as well. And then what we're doing with our application and with our core architecture is we're streamlining that whole data gathering process. So when we're using point-of-sale data, we pull it into our smart solution architecture, and under this umbrella, we call it POSmart. We're gathering and pulling together all of that data, and we're harmonizing it to eliminate the issues that we were just talking about in that previous screen. And that's done with more than just business rules. That's done with harmonization and integration processes and cleansing processes that we've developed over 15 years of experience. In addition, it's done through our data model and aligning the various data sources so that end users can easily query that information. So how do we get there? Step one is we've got all of these different retailer data sources here, and what happens is our BlueSky Integration Studio integrates that point-of-sale data. We stage that data, we cross-reference that information, we apply the different business rules, we apply the different measures and new metrics to those data sources, we align the different calendars, we cross-reference your item numbers with the different retail item numbers, and then we load that into the POSmart database, which is the core of our smart solution architecture. End users are then available or can then query that POS data, schedule reports to run, and those end users or the power users can schedule those reports to run, and then the end users can simply log in and access their reports because they're already run and cached on the server. Step two then is now we start integrating the other data sources necessary for trade, which include TPM solutions like SAP or Demantra, wherever your plan data is. We include your cost of goods sold, and we include your forecast and your shipments. We also align that information and pull that into the smart solution architecture, which then becomes TradeSmart with all of the trade data in it. End users are then able to query that data as well. They also have our BlueSky application, which allows you to pull data from multiple sources. So you may have some data within the smart solution architecture, and they might have their own store or product groupings as well. So they can pull data from their own sources. We then present that information back through BlueSky Analytics. Analytics is the power user tool, which allows you to create ad hoc reports and pull data together from multiple sources. Viewers are typically recipients or casual users of the information. They can drag and drop and drill and sort and compare. They can look at all of that information, but they're getting a subset of that data, and they don't have access to the full database itself. Dashboards, I showed you a screenshot of that. The dashboards are typically used by management, but any end user can use the dashboards and select what they want on there. We have mobile integration, so this is an example of Tableau where we've integrated web apps so that you can simply see it in a graphical interface the performance that you're experiencing. And then we've got a plugin into Excel as well. So for those users who simply like to use Excel, they have access to that database through a plugin that we call BlueSky. The nice part about that is they can create their dashboard once in BlueSky and then simply click refresh, and it will automatically populate. PromoPro is another user interface that requires the TradeSmart architecture. And the TradeSmart architecture, the intelligence, the reports are done through BlueSky, but PromoPro actually allows you to do event alignment. It lets you fine-tune your promotions, and I'm going to go through these. So basically, you're grouping your promoted product groups into events to create a single event at a retailer, or multiple events at retailers, but you're grouping those promoted product groups into a single event so you can see how they did as a whole. You're also realigning the promoted product group dates and events to align with sales. So maybe something, maybe a product that was supposed to ship on February 2nd didn't ship until February 3rd. You can go in and make adjustments to those sorts of things. You can also override base and incremental by event. You can make adjustments to reflect what actually happened. So, you know, again, an example of the shipments, or if a promotion was supposed to start on February 3rd and it didn't start until February 5th, you can make adjustments right there within the PromoPro application. And you can allocate spend to units in order to not double count units sold. Now, I'm going to show you the application. These are the different ways to stay connected. And while we're switching to the actual application, I'm also going to pull up this so you can see that if you go to our homepage, relationalsolutions.com, you can click on blog, and we have a whole series of blogs associated with trade. So you can see information on event summaries, promotions. We've got infographics and other helpful information on trade promotion intelligence, optimization, and so forth. There's a whole series of different blogs that we write on a general basis. So as a quick overview here, BlueSky Analytics. Here's the dashboard that we were looking at earlier today. You can simply select the market that you want to look at and the promoted product group, and your widgets change. We can also go here and look at some of our trade reports. And hopefully you're seeing our BlueSky application. And any of the reports that we're pulling up in BlueSky are going to show trade, because I've put them, this particular one is in my trade folder. There's a whole list of different reports available in my folder itself, but I have my favorites just on my home page. From here, you can filter. In this case, we're looking just at Food Lion. If I want to look at Food Lion and Kroger, or just Kroger, I can select that. I can also go up here and I can change whatever I want to on my screen. In this case, I've got my chart locked, but I can change that. And maybe I want to look at a chart. I'll just look at a pie chart here that shows that. And if I want, I can even pull that information into PowerPoint down here where it says create PowerPoint file. I could just grab it, and pull it in there. I have to pin that down first. And I can take just the chart, and maybe I want to go over here to my Hannaford. In this case, I want to take the chart and the grid, so I'll click both. I can open up other reports and do the same thing. I can also do that with my dashboard as well. So there's all sorts of reports and information that I can show you on BlueSky, but given that this is a half-hour presentation, I just wanted to give you an idea of what the trade application does. I can also drag and drop whatever I want to into or out of report. I can also create my own drill downs. So if I wanted to look at promoted product group by market, or market by promoted product group, I can do so. I can look at the different views that my analyst created for me. If I wanted to look at shipments versus forecast, I can do that as well by simply unlocking the chart. And again, I can pull that into PowerPoint if I'd like to as well. And then I can simply click Create PowerPoint, and all of those slides will be in there for me. I'd have to give it a name first, and then I can open that file. I can also export, and there's other different charts right there. I can also show all my headers. I can create calculated columns. I can export to Excel, text, HTML, PDF, or XML. I can also then go in and look at my PromoPro application. This is where we're grouping the different events, and this is what's telling me what I grouped And it's also telling me whether or not my manager has approved that product grouping already or not. And basically what we can do here is from within here, this is showing me a snapshot view of my performance. I'm looking at the promoted product groups, and I'm looking at it compared with my competitors. I can also click shipments and look at it with my shipments. I can zoom in and see much more detail as well. I can also look at my settings, and I can change different things, and I can look at the competitive products that I'm comparing it with. I align the different events, and then I can look at how my, I can look at an event summary and how I align those events. I'm looking at the different events, and anything that's not in the gray box, I can edit. The ship dates, the performance dates, cases, and so forth. So this is a very quick overview of the PromoPro application. I'm just giving you a quick idea of what's included in here. And again, there's a Gantt chart down here that you can see the different promotions and when they were run. But I can go into my event summary, and anything that's not grayed out, I can make adjustments for. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Karen.
Before we wrap it up, Janet, we did have a couple questions which came in over the chat. Our first one here is addressing the possibility to feed the results back into their plan application.
Yes, so now that you've seen the event alignment, if you did go in it, for example, and change a start date, we can feed that information back into the plan data, because the plan may, for example, have had the start of the promotion one day when actually it didn't start on that day. It started a day or two later. So yes, we can feed that back into any plan application.
Okay, we have a question here from Tim. He wants to know, can we use syndicated data as well as POS data?
Yes, and most of our customers do start with syndicated data, but it's very common for us to integrate both.
Lastly, we have, is it possible to use a baseline other than IRIs?
Yes, so we do use IRI's baseline in most cases. In many cases, I should say, just because that's what most of our customers seem to be using. But we can use any baseline. A lot of customers have developed their own baseline. We also have a baseline, and we can talk about that in more detail. We can customize any baseline. We can use Sequoia's baseline. So to us, it's just a matter of what works best for you and what your preference is.
Okay, I'd like to remind everybody that we will have a recording of this presentation along with our slides available on our YouTube channel. I'd like to thank you all again for joining us. We invite you to follow our Relational Solutions training blog by going to our website, as Janet had mentioned, at relationalsolutions.com. We also ask you to follow Relational Solutions, Janet, myself, and Bree Kelly on Twitter and LinkedIn, and join our Demand Signal Repository Institute, which is a LinkedIn group where we post a lot of the information that Janet was sharing today. You can also see more of our training videos on our Relational Solutions YouTube channel. You can feel free to contact myself or Janet following today's presentation if you have any questions regarding trade spend. We thank you again and have a great day.